UFC 318 just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. I'm going to start with fight number one and then work my way up to the main event. We saw Max Holloway finally get one over of Dustin Poirier. Paulo Costa with a surprisingly impressive performance. Kevin Holland getting absolutely outdogged by D-Rod in what was a big upset. So, going to talk about everything. Let me jump right into it. First fight, the ladies went after it, and Carli Judice did her thing. Striking looked really crisp and clean. She was better from the outside than Nicole Caliari. She was accurate with kicks to the body, straight punches. She honestly looked like a bit of a female Sean O'Malley blended with Holly Holm. I was actually blown away by Judice. She was working some nice body knees right up the center. Ultimately, in round number three, hit that perfectly timed knee. Down goes Caliari, and then a little bit of ground and pound from Judice to finish it off, and it was one-way traffic throughout the whole fight. Caliari tried wrestling a bit, but really couldn't do anything with it. Got Judice down once, and really didn't get any effective control time. It was just, the moment of getting her down. There was more control time in total on the side of Judice, who put on a striking display. She made Caliari look mid as fuck. Caliari's not really that bad, though. She's a good prospect. She's coming with a split decision with Karashkeda. I think she's got a cut to 115. She's kind of like too buff, short, and stocky for 125. But I'm telling you right now, Carli Judice is a problem in the UFC flyweight division. Carli Judice reminds me a bit of like a Dakota Ditcheva type level. I feel as though, she's on her way to breaking into the upper echelon. It's just going to take her another couple of years to like fully round it all out. But starting off a UFC career with a loss, and even her contender series fight was a loss. Two highly impressive finishes. Yes, Younessi Dubin's mid, but she still got power. And yes, Nicole Caliari was 0-1 in the UFC, but she gave Karashkeda a really good fight. I mean, Carli Judice, Juliana Miller. Is it out of the question to say that Carli Judice stops Miller too? Is it crazy to think that she has an ability to fight with somebody right now like Jamie Lynn Horth? Like, could she compete there? Striking wise, for sure. The worry would be if it hits the ground with some of those bigger, stronger girls. I think Judice has a really bright future. Obviously, young, in her 20s. She's 26 years of age. Within the next 15 months, you could see her breaking into the top 15. She seems like a special talent primed for success, and I'll assume she's got really big fights on the way forthcoming. She's a highly touted prospect, and I actually was blown away. Stance switches, smoothness on the feet. Wow, good performance. Next one, Bruno Ferreira, Jackson McVey. This was one-way traffic. A little bit of striking, not much. McVey unfortunately ran into this little mini Pitbull in Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira is powerful with his punches, and he has a very capable grappling game. He comes from a base of judo, and you can see that he's like a cinder block on top of Jackson McVey when they ended up hitting the mat. He sets up the perfect armbar. It's high-level techniques. It's two back-to-back submission wins for Bruno Ferreira as well. This was a complete and utter mismatch. As soon as they hit the ground and Ferreira ended up on top, Jackson McVey was just getting bodied here. 6'4", but shit, when you're on your back, it doesn't mean anything. When you got a Bruno Ferreira in side control, threatening with submissions, and he locks up a sub with relative ease and gets a tap in the first round. I feel like Bruno Ferreira coming out unscathed. This is a, impressive win as it should be, but one of those wins where he could consider a quick turnaround. I don't know when Ikram Aliaskarov will be ready, but I'm all in favor of getting that fight rebooked. I think that's an interesting matchup. Obviously, we've seen Bruno Ferreira showcase a bit more of the ground skills as of late, already known for big power in the hands. He's a ways away from, breaking into the UFC's top 15, but Bruno Ferreira is pretty damn good. He beat a guy, though, we don't even know if he's UFC level, but like, I still was really impressed with how Bruno Ferreira handled him. He took no damage in the fight. He completely neutralized his opponent. He's ranked around that number 20-ish spot. I mean, a fight between Bruno Ferreira and Ikram Aliaskarov is kind of just a fight that has to be. But I will make an argument that the winner of Shara Bullet and not Dushko, excuse me, and Marc Andre Barrios could be a potential fight. I like Shara Bullet versus Bruno Ferreira a lot. I feel like that could be fireworks, but shit, if you're Shara's team, you might not take it because of the ground skills of Bruno being pretty deadly and the fact he's got power too. But that's a fun one. If it's not Ikram, I think that potentially Shara Bullet form next. And OV is up next for Ferreira. After handling Jackson McVey easy, it's time for some hard matchups after he took out, short notice replacement who had a badass flow, but unfortunately not the badass fight skills at this level. Ryan Spann, Łukasz Brzeski. This was essentially a walk in the park for Ryan Spann. Landed a couple punches on the feet, but then just dragged this fight to the ground and showed levels on Brzeski. Was trying to hunt for the arm triangle. Ended up not being able to secure it. Łukasz Brzeski forces his way out and then looks to reverse the sprawl position with like an over-under and Spann on top. And then Spann locks up the fucking power gilly and gets the tap on Łukasz Brzeski. It was good work by Superman Spann. His ground skills looked impeccable. He hit the takedown with ease, and then he was able to finish the fight when it hit the mat. There was a pure level difference in grappling ability that was like truly on display for Ryan Spann. A lot of the time you think of Ryan Spann as a striker, but he does have 14 submission wins. Going into this fight, he had 13. So it's like, yeah, we see the power, but, 6 KOs opposite having double-digit submissions. I would say, like, he's more of an underrated submission threat. Obviously, starting off the heavyweight run against Waldo was a terrible fucking matchup. But I do think there's fun fights for Ryan Spann at this heavyweight division. He's in a weird spot, though. Whereas even if he beats the worst guy on the roster, like Łukasz Brzeski, because to be fair, that's kind of what Łukasz Brzeski is, I don't think you can give him easy matchups next. I mean, could be matched up against somebody like a Mick Parkin, who's, on the outside of the top 15 or right on the cusp of top 15 at the 15 spot. If they were going to go a different direction, it's like, do you go Ryan Spann versus, somebody that is coming off L's? You go against somebody getting wins like a Johanata Janiz, who's a good striker. Obviously, Petrino Janiz is a fight to be rebooked. To be fair, Petrino Spann could be a fight that ends up on the table. But one fight that did jump out at me, and I thought, I'd be intrigued. Even though Walter Walker just got a quick sub of Kenley and Nzechukwu, I think Ryan Spann versus Nzechukwu could end up being a cool fight. So I would be in favor of Spann and Nzechukwu. But, the UFC is not always crazy about matching up guys coming off wins with guys coming off L's. But it would be a cool fight with both guys being really tall and long and dangerous. And I'd just be intrigued by the fight as, two former light heavyweights would face off as well. Now, for Łukasz Brzeski, walking papers. He's out. Next fight, Jimmy Crute, Marcin Prachnio. Jimmy Crute finally got a win. It had been a damn long time. He hadn't won a fight since 2020. He was 0-3-2 across his last 5, and he was coming off a disappointing draw with Rodolfo Bellato. Now, aside from some testy moments on the feet, there was good striking moments for Crute, but he was definitely countered a good amount by Prachnio. When he took this fight to where he is most comfortable, he showed a different level in the grappling ability. Now, Prachnio was defensively sound. He stopped 50% of the takedowns, but eventually Jimmy Crute got to the proper position, was able to find the armbar. And then with the armbar, it's not like he got a quick tap, though. Marcin Prachnio was doing everything he could to fight out of the position and essentially let his arm break before tapping out. So I was impressed by Prachnio's willingness to just essentially allow a limb to be ripped off. But on the flip side, I was really impressed by Crute's grappling awareness. It looked clean. It looked good. Like, Jimmy Crute put on a solid performance, and he called out Dustin Jacoby after the fact, which is actually kind of a sensible call out because Jacoby, coming off of back-to-back wins against Vitor Petrino and Bruno Lopez. Honestly, that Petrino win on paper has aged well, with Petrino going up to heavyweight and looking pretty scary. Granted, against the worst guy or one of the worst in Austin Lane. Nonetheless, I feel like Jimmy Crute, Dustin Jacoby kind of makes sense. They're guys that have been on the cusp of top 15 for a while. They've never fought against one another. They do have common opponents on their resumes. And I'd be intrigued by the stylistic matchup, too, with Dustin Jacoby having a clear striking advantage. And on the opposite side, Crute having a clear grappling advantage. But Jacoby, like, he's not inept on the ground. He's pretty defensively sound with takedown defense and with grappling defense overall. And I feel like Crute making the call for that fight, let's answer it. Let's set it up. I don't know if that's a great decision for him. When he said Dustin Jacoby, I immediately thought, man, if he can't get Dustin Jacoby down, he's going to get tuned up on the feet. And even if he gets him down, I mean, to pull off a submission against a gritty vet like Jacoby is no easy feat. You look at Jacoby's, recent performances, he's got 2 straight wins, and he hasn't been finished by a submission since, holy shit, long time ago. 2015 in Bellator when submission ace John Salter put him in a submission. So you got like a legitimate pro kickboxing level striker versus a guy who's very athletic and talented in Jimmy Crute, but gonna need the fight on the ground. If Prachnio's cracking you with shots on the feet, Dustin Jacoby might be shutting your lights off. So I'll give Crute that fight because he called for it, but I'd be worried. I'd be a little nervous. Nonetheless, good performance by Crute. Gets back on track finally. After being like the prospect to keep an eye on, it's nice to see him finally get a W. Next fight, Islam Dulatov, Adam Fugitt. Dulatov striking looked crisp and clean. What he showed in this fight is he's not just a berserker. I think there was a bit of an expectation that he only knows how to just blitz people, outwork them, and just beat them up and get them out of there. Whereas Dulatov in this fight showed technical striking. He showed really good takedown defense. He stopped 3 of Adam Fugitt's takedowns. And then, just a patient striking attack that led him to the perfect kind of light counter lead hook that dropped Fugitt, and then a couple of big ground and pound shots. It shows you don't need to load up on everything. If you just land a clean punch to the chin that's thrown at the right time, you can drop your opponent and then finish him off with a bit of ground and pound and call it wraps. Islam Dulatov is one to watch. They were talking about post-fight that he has this model shoot on Monday. So the dude took a fight knowing he's got a model on Monday. To go out unscathed is really impressive. He didn't really absorb any immense damage from the side of Adam Fugitt throughout the fight. I mean, there was some head strikes, 5 head strikes landed, but like nothing that was all that impactful. Fugitt was clearly outgunned on the feet, and he got shown a different level by a prospect to keep an eye on who's Chechen blood, but fights out of Germany with Abus Magomedov in the corner. Let me tell you, the UFC welterweight division is filled with fucking prospects. So for Dulatov, it's hard to say where they place him next. I definitely think that when you have a guy who's, in his earlier stages of his fighting career, I don't think you got to run him up the ranks all that quick, I don't think you got to push him up all that far off rip. I think about I think about Islam Dulatov at 26. And I'm like, Charles Radke's a cool fight. Radke coming off that bad loss to Mike Malott. So maybe, he doesn't fight a guy just in his sophomore UFC appearance. But Dulatov has the hype right now. And he's a contender to keep an eye on. And he's somebody I'm excited about. I feel like Dulatov is really sharp on the feet. And on top of that, he's also got 5 submission wins. So it's not like he can't grapple too. Showcased more of a patient attack in this fight. And I think that was a best case scenario for him. He handled a journeyman like Fugitt in the way that he should. Defending against all of Fugitt's best attacks and then getting a first round stoppage. So Dulatov, W performance. Hard to say where the UFC matches him up with next. Like, you could give him an aging veteran. You could give him a fellow prospect. Or maybe it's a debuting guy. I don't know for sure with the UFC. There was no specific call out. But beating a 2-2 in the UFC at the time, Adam Fugitt, that's a pretty impressive debut. They definitely didn't give him a layup in his debut. Like, on paper, Fugitt's legit. Obviously, in the fight, he looked to be, completely outmatched. But that's just because Dulatov has top 15 staying power. And I think that eventually he'll get there. He's still young in his 20s at 26 years of age. But I do look forward to the next probably 36 months of Dulatov. I think he's a threat. I think he could be like a better version of what Vicente Luque was in his prime, if that makes sense. Like, I look at the UFC rankings right now, and obviously it's far-fetched to even consider him against the top 15. But, like, he's I'm not saying he's beating Gabriel Bonfim tomorrow, who's ranked number 14. But if in, 15, 16, 17, 24 months around that time, he fought against somebody like Bonfim and won, would I be shocked by it? Would I be blown away if Dulatov beat a Daniel Rodriguez tomorrow? Not really. So impressive win that definitely holds weight, and he's one to watch. Let's keep running. Next fight, Ateba Gautier just destroyed Robert Valentin. From the first punch, Valentin was turtling up. He was off balance. He was getting ripped apart by multi-shot combinations. Gautier showed really good boxing skills. He seems to be patient with his attack, which is something that I was so blown away by in his UFC debut. And even his fight against Naito on Contender, he has a calmness about him that is very uncommon for 23. He don't look 23. I don't know if he really is 23. Maybe they got a fake birth certificate. The guy's got a Sambo base, a Muay Thai background, and he's got Cameroonian boxing. And the way he strings his punches together, like, I think right now, his level, I was talking about, like, this dude could compete at a high level in amateur boxing. Like, Ateba Gautier is legit with his hands, and he has the God-given gift of power, and then he has the learned patience at such a young age. Could Ateba Gautier not break into the top 15 at 26 years of age? He's only 23 right now with the specimen build, with the God-given gift of power. Like, this kid is a fucking problem off rip. Yes, I get it. Robert Valentin is probably one of the worst middleweights on the UFC roster, but Gautier right now chins Torres Finney in round one, and Torres Finney's 1-0 in the UFC. He beat Valentin by a split decision. If they book that fight, I feel like Torres Finney would get dusted, man. I think Ateba Gautier, if you matched him up with Tresean Gore right now, he's probably knocking Tresean Gore flat out. He's probably chinning Zachary Reese. Shit, he might be ready for a Christian Leroy Duncan striking attack, and Leroy Duncan's an experienced vet. If they give him Cedric Dumas, you're not picking Gautier by KO? These guys outside of the top 30, I feel like he's fucking most of them up, and I can't wait to see more from him. I think he beats Ismail Nardiev right now, who's coming off a decision win, or excuse me, a decision loss to Jun Young Park. I love the patience. I love the potential. And at 23 years of age, I'm telling you, we might have a little mini Ngannou on our hands. I think eventually he might have to jump to light heavyweight, but fuck, I'd be more scared for the light heavyweights than anything else. Because if he fills in a 205-pound frame, he already looks freakishly jacked at 185. I can't imagine if he puts on more of that muscle. It's mini Ngannou. That's what Ateba Gautier is, with more patience and more technicality. What else could you ask for a prospect to watch? I can't wait to see him blossom. I want him to fight within the next 3 months, and I think he'll get a short notice fight or maybe like a quick turnaround because he took no damage here. And he sent Valentin outside of the UFC. Valentin got killed. One-way traffic, absolute ass whooping. The reason Valentin got crushed is he tried to do one of those tomahawk elbows and then just got caught with a big punch, and it was like wraps from there. Then he was just getting wobbled all over the place for the remainder of the fight, which was 1 minute and 10 seconds. Gautier looks sensational. Next fight, Nikolai Veretennikov, Francisco Prado. So I honestly felt like the decision here was testy. I scored the first round for Nikolai Veretennikov for sure. I don't think there's any doubt. He looked cleaner than Prado in round number one. He did more against Prado, ended up on top a bit. Prado was making mistakes with grappling at times. Prado's good, but, finds a way to sell because I think he's a little bit on the cockier side. Round number two was competitive, and both guys had moments. I thought that Prado might have done a little bit more, catching Veretennikov with some big shots and having some moments in the grappling where he showcased his strength from top position and his submission threat. Though he's overzealous shooting for fucking arm bars and shit that he's fallen to his back and then getting controlled. So, kind of a bad end even to round two, but I felt like Prado had done enough in round two. And then obviously he secured round number three in a pretty back and forth third round. I thought Prado had done enough to win the third, landing bigger shots, getting in top position, threatening from top position a bit. Even though Veretennikov was able to find ways to escape, I felt like it was a Prado decision win after a hard fought third, a really close second, and then a loss in round one. Ultimately, the fight goes towards Veretennikov and he wins a split decision. I can't sit here and scream robbery, but I won't lie. My personal scorecard had Francisco Prado getting it 29-28 on the judges' cards. I thought Prado had done just enough to pull through. Veretennikov, nonetheless, gets his hand raised and keeps his UFC career alive. I don't know how you match him up. right? With Veretennikov, it's one of those things where it's like he's a 35-year-old prospect in all actuality, which is never necessarily a good look. I mean, if you want to go battle of winners at 170 on this card, him and Dulatov, I'm picking Dulatov to win. And I'm thinking Dulatov's life to finish him. I'm thinking Dulatov's life to maybe even submit him and showcase his ground skills there. Prado, he needs to make 155. His arms are too short. He was getting caught at the end of a lot of Veretennikov shots and like trying to chase his way into range. So I do think Prado needs to figure out this weight cutting thing because his arms are too short for 170 pounds. And on the flip side of that, like ended up selling by just making bad decisions. Starts off his UFC career now, what, 1-4 in the UFC? Like, what can we say about him? He was hurt early in the fight, bad. Rocked a bit in round one, but chin held up. So you say, okay, good chin, good toughness, some ground skills, bit of pop. Probably getting his walking papers, though. Prado is done. Prado is on his way out of the UFC at 24 years of age or 23 years of age. He jumped in short notice against Jamie Malarkey. It was too much for him, but it's like odd short notice. Been on the roster over 2 years now, and I don't think he's gotten much better. And it's weird because he's young at 23, but he hasn't gotten all that much better. Fought the likes of Jake Matthews and Daniel Zellhuber. Losing those fights is fair. But then to also take the L to Veretennikov, who was, 0-2 in the UFC and coming off of a really bad loss. Yeah, man. Prado's getting sent out. I think he needs some work to do in the regional scene. But nonetheless, good win for Veretennikov. Definitely showed some accuracy in the striking. And Muay Thai looked pretty good early. And never quitting on the position also looked good, too, because he fought his way out of a lot of them. Prado, big mistakes on the ground. Big mistakes. Big mistakes. Trying triangles with his short legs. Just bad strategy, bad game plan, and ultimately an L. Next fight, Marvin Vettori got tuned up by Brendan Allen for 3 rounds. It was a competitive fight, but Brendan Allen was sharper with his hands, and he busted Marvin Vettori up bad in round 1, and that kind of set the pace of the whole fight. Vettori had a cut over his eye. He was getting hit with big shots. Nose was busted wide open, was outstruck in the speed aspect, was taken down even by Brendan Allen a handful of times. Allen looked pretty solid on the ground. Ultimately, Vettori, strong as fuck, was able to even get top position a bit on Brendan Allen and control a little bit, but then ultimately in the striking, he was landing a good amount. He landed 109 significant strikes to Allen's 111, but the bigger moments were Allen's, man. I thought 29-28 was fair. I don't necessarily feel like I agree with 30-27. I thought Vettori was definitely in the fight. I thought Vettori pushed a hard pace in round 3. The 30-27 tells a story of him just getting his ass whooped. I do think that he lost the fight for sure. But I also feel as though Vettori had some successful moments against a game Brendan Allen who was very sharp. It's like, are you disappointed if you're Vettori? Absolutely. Is he out of the top 15? I don't know, because he pushed Allen hard. He hit Allen with some big shots. It's just he got cracked with better shots. He got busted up bad. It was a fun back and forth fight. Somehow fight of the night when the real fights of the night were on the main card, so I don't give a fuck with the UFC's awarding fight of the night. That wasn't the real fight of the night. It was a very fun fight, though, and it was good striking exchanges and both guys landing, both guys having big shots and big moments, but Allen was the sharper tool, sharper with his striking, a little cleaner with his punching, and I think just better. And then he gets his hand raised. Brendan Allen goes out, decision win, and, no love lost between him and Vettori. I guess a little bit of burying the hatchet. I felt bad for Vettori, man. He had lost his brother not long ago, and then to go and lose pretty handily against Brendan Allen. It's just one of those sad things. I like Vettori, man. He's holding the fort down for Italian MMA, but Italian MMA is not in a great spot. Italian MMA right now down bad. A lot of prospects losing. Brendan Allen just beat the number 10 guy, so I expect him to be ranked number 10. He's in one of those interesting spots where he's coming off of 2 straight losses, but to 2 very good fighters. He lost to the likes of grappling ace Anthony Hernandez, and he lost to the likes of absolute sniper striker Nasruddin Imavov, who's currently the number 1 contender in the middleweight division as far as the rankings are concerned. I mean, Brendan Allen versus a Rainier de Ritter, Robert Whittaker loser could be a fight. I don't think you can jump Brendan Allen too far. I guess it really depends how Anthony Hernandez, Roman Dolidze plays out. If Dolidze was to win, I feel like it's not crazy to say Allen Dolidze. I don't think Hernandez and Allen run it back for a 3rd time. I also don't guarantee you that we're going to see, Allen put in a spot where he's jumped up the ranks in front of a guy like Hernandez. He could be forced to fight backwards against somebody. And that's somebody I'll mention as we get to their fight. Now, for the side of Marvin Vettori, I mean, he's holding on to his top 15 spot by a thread. He can fight another guy that was also on this card in a battle of middleweights, holding on to relevancy. Could also argue that somebody like a Michel Pereira could be a fight for him. Pereira, I believe, is scheduled for something. He's supposed to be fighting Marco Tulio in August. Shit, if he loses, he's down 3. I don't know. Do they give Tulio a top 15 with the win? Maybe. Currently, Pereira's unranked in the top 15. But he was at 15. Now Abus Magomedov took his spot. Abus Magomedov, Marvin Vettori doesn't seem like a stretch, but more about timelines and return. And Vettori took a shitload of damage, so might be out for a little while. Hopefully we see a more active Marvin Vettori, but is down, 3 fights in a row now for Vettori, is it? I believe it's 3 fights in a row. Let me double check here. Yeah, Vettori has lost 3 in a row. Cannonier, Delidze, Brendan Allen. Rough 3. Rough 3. Rough 3. L City. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card. Kyler Phillips, Vinicius Oliveira. Early in the fight, like really early in the fight, Kyler Phillips actually had a couple of moments landing nice straights. But then for the majority of the fight, he was caught sprinting away from Vinicius Oliveira, who was attacking him with just wild, herky-jerky bombs. Oliveira has a very unique style where he does like awkward dips and loads up on punches from his hips and never brings his hands to his face, but I guess he doesn't need to. He's a bit of a berserker with his chaotic style, and he forces opponents to run from him because he just hits too fucking hard. And he also seems to have one of those God-given gifts of an iron chin. Like literally Phillips would catch him with big shots and there's no effect. It's a very interesting sensation when you see a guy get cracked hard and just not really seem any bit affected by the big shot. So I definitely think the chin of Vinicius Oliveira is legit. Now, of course, Oliveira has talked about eventually he's going to have to move up to 145 pounds, but not yet. Not yet. Vinicius Oliveira versus Rob Font. Does that not intrigue you? Rob Font currently ranked number 8 in the world. Somehow Oliveira's at 15, and he just beat Phillips at 12. Phillips also coming off a loss to Rob Font previous to this fight. I feel like Rob Font versus Vinicius Oliveira could make a ton of sense. I feel like Rob Font and Vinicius Oliveira could also be a cool stylistic matchup. Font with a sharp jab and technical boxing, but towards his final run, Oliveira, the surging prospect with crazy explosiveness, does everything by the book wrong, but fuck the book. It's about how it looks in the fight, and Vinicius Oliveira damn sure knows how to fight. Physical specimen, crazy explosive, crazy powerful, and very hard to read with his unorthodox style. So, big win for Vinicius Oliveira. I do want to run up to the main card, but I'll sip of my drink. Let's get to the main card. If you guys haven't hit the likes, if you're new, subscribe. Michael Johnson absolutely veteran checks Daniel Zellhuber. Looked really clean in boxing in round number 1. Competitive first round, but Johnson was sharper, and I scored the first round to him, landed some good shots to the body, some punch combinations in close. A lot of Zellhuber's kicks were getting blocked. A lot of Zellhuber's kicks were landing on the arm of Michael Johnson. And you thought that would slow him down. I guess not. Round number 2, Michael Johnson ends up dropping Daniel Zellhuber in a combination. That was incredible. Putting Zellhuber down is a big deal. Little grounded pound from Johnson, back to striking, good body work. Johnson's hands look sharp in this fight. Round number 1 and 2, he looked awesome. Then in round 3, Zellhuber did a little bit more. Landed some nice kicks to the body, some decent straight shots, but still looks slower on the feet. Just Johnson seemed to be slowed down, but there was still like faster hands. With Johnson, it's just Zellhuber's range allowed him to land better shots come round number 3. And then when I look at the fight, I think, okay, Michael Johnson, coming off of a win like this is a crazy spot to be in because he's won 3 fights in a row and he's won 4 out of his last 5. Quietly, Michael Johnson has made a career resurgence. He's now 16-15 in the UFC, so he has a winning record, right? 25-19 as a pro. He's got a better record to look at for sure. I mean, where the hell do you put a guy like Michael Johnson? He beat Daniel Zellhuber, who's coming off a loss to Esteban Ribovic, so it's not like he just took out a top-class guy. I love the idea of Michael Johnson versus the likes of Manuel Torres. I feel like that could also be a recipe for disaster because Manuel Torres is a terrifying power puncher. But I also then think, you know what? He got knocked out by Bajo Mendez with a clean straight shot. Johnson could land that clean straight. Timelines could end up working out. If not, we could see Michael Johnson face off against, somebody like Nazim Sadikov who's on a roll. But I don't know. Manuel Torres might be it. I'm looking towards the higher class rankings. Like, is he going to get a Nasrat Hakparast who has won 5 straight? I don't think so. Is he going to get a Ziam Kawe Fernandez winner? It's like, doesn't have that much intrigue, especially if Fernandez wins. Are they going to give Johnson a fight in the top 15? Like, is Michael Johnson going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis? Is Michael Johnson Benoit Saint-Denis somehow on the table after this performance? Maybe. Maybe. But I guess the one that stood out to me was Manuel Torres and him, because I don't necessarily think he deserves a shot in the top 15. The UFC lightweight division is about as stacked as you get. Coming off a nice W, big fights make sense. If not, Ludovic Klein is also a cool fight. Klein coming off the loss to Gamrot, but I still think him and Michael Johnson could be an absolute barn burner. For Zellhuber, definitely send him back a ways. I just don't feel like he's necessarily ready for the higher levels. Like, he's sharp. You could fight, somebody like a Ismael Bonfim next. Battle of kickboxers, kind of a battle of busted prospects too. I'd be interested in the fight. I'd be curious to watch. Jai Herbert, the Black Country Banger, maybe. Definitely Michael Johnson's boxing are what carried this fight. And he pulls off a huge upset. He was a plus 550 underdog. And he beats Daniel Zellhuber, who's a huge favorite. Against all odds, Michael Johnson didn't quit on himself, and his boxing looked about as sharp as always. So, impressive, Michael Johnson. Big win. Patricio Pitbull, Dan Ige. Pitbull kept his UFC career alive, outworking Dan Ige. I got to tell you, man, competitive round 1, but I thought Pitbull did a little bit more. Competitive round 2 in moments, but Pitbull had Dan Ige hurt. Pitbull cracked Dan Ige with a big straight shot that had Dan Ige fucking rocked like we never really see him, because Ige's got a damn strong chin, and Pitbull cracked him. Round number 3, Patricio, Pitbull, and Ige go after it. There was a nice moment for Dan Ige landing the kick up high that busted the nose of Patricio Pitbull pretty bad. But ultimately, still, Patricio was aggressive in the fight, still backing Dan Ige up, still landing shots of his own, threatening with takedowns, landed 5 out of 9 takedowns, showed some control from top position. Definitely way better than his UFC debut against Yair Rodriguez. He was able to outwork Dan Ige in like a Pitbull style of fight. This reminded me of the younger Pitbull. So was good to see that he still has his career and it's not over just yet. Like we, had initially presumed that it might be after a terrible loss to Yair Rodriguez. Now he goes out and takes out a legit top 15 guy in Dan Ige, who holds a spot right now at number 11. Wow. Number 11 is kind of crazy. Is it wild to envision a fight between Patricio Pitbull and a prospect like Onama, or do they match him up with a power hitter like Josh Emmett? To be honest, Patricio Pitbull, Josh Emmett's another cool fight because it's another shorter featherweight. I will vote for Patricio Emmett. I'm also not opposed to Aljamain Sterling Patricio for something different, or the Ortega Sterling winner even. They're scheduled to fight August 23rd. I'm intrigued, though, by a fight between Josh Emmett and Patricio Pitbull, seeing the shorter statures, the power threat that Emmett brings to the table with Pitbull's well-crafted and well-rounded game. I'm intrigued by the fight. I think Pitbull can land some nice leg kicks there. I think he could move on Josh, but then I think Emmett's power is a big factor. Pitbull's chin still seems pretty iron. It's always been incredibly good. Both of them got their ass kicked by Yair Rodriguez, so why not match up 2 short-stacked heavy punchers at 145 against one another? For Dan Ige, he sold in the big spot, man. This was the fight that, you can't sell this one, and he ends up selling. Dan Ige versus somebody like Giga Chikadze would make sense. Chikadze coming off that David Onama loss. I'd be cool with that. Good performance for Patricio. Let's keep running. Next fight, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez. Oh my God. I don't even understand this fight. Seriously. I don't get it. I don't get it. D-Rod just looks significantly slower. D-Rod seems to be so much worse, but no, he's not. D-Rod's a gangster with that Mexican boxing style, ripping wild shots in close, taking big shots on the chin and just firing heat back. He dropped Kevin Holland twice. The second round, D-Rod landed thunderous shots, dropping Kevin Holland twice. Round one was close, but I thought D-Rod had done a little bit more. I thought D-Rod was a little bit more technical around number one. Landed a couple more significant shots. Round number two, we had Kevin Holland rock terribly 2 times. Nearly finished him with ground and pound. Holland was failing takedowns. He looked like weaker on the feet. It was so interesting to watch Holland just get absolutely outdogged by D-Rod. The power difference was wild. Holland did land some huge shots in round number 3, and it looked like he was going to get a 3rd round knockout. Looked like he was going to get a 3rd round submission. Ultimately ends up falling to his back. D-Rod gets him out. Holland escapes. We're back to striking. Holland's essentially gassed out. Ends up on the ground again with D-Rod off the counter. D-Rod ends up in mount for a second time. And he's throwing ground and pound shots. And like Holland's given up on himself after D-Rod defending the Holland submission attack. He was trying to get a shitty rear naked. It just wasn't working. He was trying to get that Darce choke, but D-Rod kept sliding out. And then they're on the ground, and D-Rod's the guy on top. He's the guy landing his shots from mount, controlling Kevin Holland. Was wild to see D-Rod look so fucking good. And it's not like it looked good in the traditional sense. It still looked a little awkward at times, but it's effective. D-Rod has just strange timing and accuracy. And he just took out a ranked fighter in the welterweight division. Kevin Holland was ranked. Wow, Kevin Holland was fucking ranked. And now D-Rod just bursted into the rankings with a win like this. You know, seeing that Gabriel Bonfim had a lot of trouble with Wonder Boy, I could see Bonfim D-Rod with the mentality of, all right, we got to take a little more time with Bonfim. Don't rush him up too quick. Give him a D-Rod who can box a bit, but does have some flaws on the ground. I think Bonfim could get him to the ground. I think Bonfim could threaten with submissions. I feel like D-Rod Bonfim is the fight that jumps out to me next. It was a badass performance from D-Rod. As a huge underdog, he was plus 425 at the time the lines closed. D-Rod at one point was supposed to be the prospect to watch. Took a couple rough L's, but has clawed his fucking way back to the upper echelon of the UFC welterweight division. He's going to be ranked inside of the top 15. I mean, they might matchmake him backwards a bit and give him a Mike Malott and try to break Malott inside of the top 15. But if you're going to matchmake him with, you know, somebody around that similar level, I really don't think that it's crazy to envision him fighting somebody like a Bonfim. Somebody like a Bonfim. It's wild, man. D-Rod, he had a terrible downfall, 3 losses in a row at one point, but has clawed his way back into relevancy. He's put together 3 straight wins. The Alex Morono win was a razor-thin decision, knocked out Ponzi, and then beat Kevin Holland's ass. 20 of 5 D-Rod still fucking got something left, man. Kevin Holland, he goes to 28-14 now. Such a journeyman record. He was really supposed to fuck D-Rod up, and he just got outdogged and handled against a 38-year-old. Got rocked with punches in the pocket, caught with counter hooks, a little wobbly on the feet, looked uncomfortable on the mat. D-Rod beat the shit out of him. He couldn't deal with the gangster, the real-life gangster. I believe Holland was complaining a bit about like head clashes because D-Rod's a southpaw, Holland's orthodox, and D-Rod would close that gap and they would like lightly clash heads a bit. It did seem to throw Holland's flow off a bit, but you got to fight through it. D-Rod's a motherfucker made out of steel. And I think that a top 15 fight now, after beating a guy that, you know, was holding on to that top 15 spot, now a top 15 fight's undeniable for D-Rod, who felt like he was supposed to break into the top 15 years ago. He's 10-4 in the UFC. D-Rod has quietly done some amazing shit. Controversial win against the Leech, too, back in 2022. But look at him now. It doesn't fucking matter. Fucked up Mike Perry back in 2021. Hell of a run for D-Rod. Former Tim Means opponent. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. 38 don't mean shit. D-Rod still got it. His hands look sharp. His combinations were on point, and he checked Kevin Holland bad. This was a Kevin Holland on a 2-fight win streak, fucking Vicente Luque up, beating Gunnar Nelson and dropping him. And then D-Rod just gives him a fucking lesson. What a damn performance by D-Rod. I'm still blown away. I'm still freaked out. It doesn't seem real. D-Rod's going to be in the top 15 again next week. He hasn't been in the rankings for years. Quietly, he's put it together. 3 impressive wins in a row, and this one by far the most impressive because he beat a guy that was really supposed to beat his ass. Respect to D-Rod. Next fight, co-main event, Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov. Paulo Costa looked like a sharp blade. Costa was accurate with big headshots and body kicks. Paulo Costa dropped Roman Kopylov. Paulo Costa busted Kopylov up with big shots, thudding him with heavy punches, having Kopylov on wobbly legs a bit. Kopylov landed a couple shots and did hurt Costa in round 3, but it was after Costa had done a shitload of damage throughout the fight. Costa was on point with his heavy kicks, attacking the legs well and knocking Kopylov off balance, ripping him with body kicks and body punches that were slowly flattening the tires, and then throwing big headshots when need be as well. That was stunning Kopylov. This was one of those what the fuck performances by Paulo Costa. You think he's washed? Nah, this reminded me of young Costa. Took out a sharp tactical kickboxer in Roman Kopylov and showed sharp tactical and powerful kickboxing. What more do you want with Paulo Costa? Well, I think a fight between him and Brendan Allen could be cool. Allen coming off the win against Vettori. That was a former opponent of Paulo Costa many years ago, but I do think that's kind of irrelevant to now. Brendan Allen fighting against Paulo Costa, that's a step up in name value for Brendan Allen. That's a chance to fight a guy that was amongst the elite in the last generation and is holding on now to relevancy after beating Kopylov. I feel like this was the best we've seen Paulo Costa look predating the 2020s. Like 2019 Paulo Costa, that's more along the lines of how this version of him looked. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, give him the respect that's owed. Give him the respect that's owed, man. I think Paulo Costa versus Brendan Allen, incredible fight. I think Paulo Costa versus somebody like Gregory Rodriguez. There we go. I had a full brain fart there. Somebody like Gregory Rodriguez, if they want to push him to somebody outside of the rankings looking to burst in, or if you want to keep him in the rankings against a Savage, you do go in the direction of Brendan Allen, who's coming off a win on the card. And I think that the timelines could end up working out. Both won decisions. They're going to need a little recovery for the wear and tear, but should be able to turn it around. And I'm intrigued by Brendan Allen's striking versus Paulo Costa's power. I'm intrigued to see if Brendan Allen can get Costa to the ground, who normally has historically good grappling defense. And I definitely think Costa could have the power to put Brendan Allen away. So Paulo Costa versus Brendan Allen, I say yes. After the fight, he calls out Hamzat, but he knows he's not getting a Hamzat fight. He knows. We know. He knows. Everybody knows. He ain't getting a Hamzat fight. But a fight against Brendan Allen, I think that's a real possibility. Paulo Costa, respect to the man. Big power shots, accurate kicks, heavy punches, an overall well-rounded and clean game. Deserves love and respect. Next fight on the card. Let's keep moving up. Main event of the evening. We had the retirement fight of Dustin Poirier, and it was also the trilogy between Max Holloway and Poirier. They went after it for the third and final time, and this time Max Holloway finally comes out on top. Now, when you look at it round by round, shit gets kind of crazy because in round 1, it looked like Max Holloway was going to get the knockout. Dropped Dustin Poirier badly in the first round. Hurt him again after he had him already rocked and getting back up to his feet. Holloway's landing big ground and pound shots. And it looks like in round number 1, we might be looking at a quick KO win for Max Holloway and Poirier goes out like shit. But no, Poirier digs deep and he's still firing back shots at the end of round 1. Round number 2 starts, and Max Holloway had Poirier so hurt. He had him essentially gone on the feet and nearly gets him out of there. But what does Poirier do? He never wilts. He never quits. And he drops Max Holloway, landing some thunderous counter shots, backing Max Holloway up, busting him up, making him uncomfortable, and earning, I think, the comeback in round number 2. I feel like he ended up stealing the round for his big moments late. Even tried to jump Gilly, ended up in mount on Max Holloway. It was a vintage Dustin Poirier round number 2. Round number 3, I thought Holloway was technically sharper, landed more shots, and landed shots with a bit more pop. Even though when Poirier landed, it would like do more so to knock Holloway off balance a little bit, not like their second fight. When Max Holloway landed, they were thudding shots and they were landing clean on Dustin Poirier, even if there was less of a physical reaction. I thought that Max Holloway had won the third. So my scorecard read after 3 rounds: round number 1, Max Holloway; round number 2, Dustin Poirier; and round number 3, Max Holloway. There's an argument you also score a round number 2 for Holloway with all the damage that he did early. Round number 4, Dustin Poirier came on strong. Round number 4, Dustin Poirier landed some decent shots on Max Holloway in key striking exchanges. Some nice overhands, some nice big power lefts, decent right hooks, solid kicks low. It was a competitive round for sure in the 4th, but I thought Dustin Poirier did beat Max Holloway by a tad in round number 4. By a tad. Just a tad. I felt like it could have been 2-2 going into round number 5, or it could have been 3-1 Holloway. Didn't fucking matter because Max Holloway absolutely cleaned Dustin Poirier's clock in round number 3. Landed the way cleaner straight punches, was to the target first, even landed that spin kick to the body. And then when he pointed down at the center for the last 10 seconds of Dustin Poirier's career, he had Dustin in a lot of trouble with big shots and wild exchanges between the two, and looked as though, you know, he could have knocked Dustin Poirier out potentially with another minute left. And Max Holloway finishes the fight with the biggest moment. Definitely stole the fight. And I predicted the scorecards. I thought 48-47, 49-46, 49-46 to a T. To a fucking T. Max Holloway outworks Dustin Poirier in a back and forth barn burner. He outworks Dustin Poirier in a sensational back and forth war. And the third time they faced off, finally, Max Holloway showed he's ready for the real 155. He can take the big shots from the big boys. Yes, Poirier put him down, but also Holloway 8 shots and was able to survive and didn't get as substantially bothered by the big punches Poirier was throwing. And there was more of an effect from Max Holloway to Poirier, to Poirier. When Max Holloway would land, it would do more damage. When Max Holloway would land, Dustin Poirier was more uncomfortable. Max Holloway busted Poirier up. Max Holloway looked sharp, man. Max Holloway looked like a fucking problem. After the fight, Max Holloway did the quick call out to the likes of Topuria. I think he still needs one more. He's got the BMF title, but I don't think they're putting it on the line and doing Topuria versus Max. I like the idea of Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. That'd be a cool rematch. And I think the BMF belt could be on the line for a matchup like that. But who knows what they do with the BMF. I definitely think that Max Holloway's planning on keeping that title and defending it. He talked about the undisputed belt, but that's doubtful that it's next. Max Holloway versus the likes of Charles Oliveira is a BMF fight. It's a BMF fight. It makes a lot of sense to me. Beating Dustin Poirier for the first time ever. Max Holloway beat Justin Gaethje. So, like, Max is the true BMF champ. He has beaten 2 former, at least, BMF title challengers. Poirier never held the BMF title, but he was always close. Lost the Gaethje fight in the 2nd BMF championship fight ever, and then obviously lost to Max Holloway here in the 4th BMF championship fight ever. He was just simply put outworked. Cleaner shots landed by Max Holloway. Better punches. He looked sharper. He looked faster. He looked more accurate. He looked more primed. Dustin Poirier looked a tad bit slowed down, missing with power overhand shots and wide right hooks. And even though he did have key moments in the fight, there was an evident slowdown in Dustin Poirier where I feel like Max Holloway, his speed is the same as it always has been, but now he hits harder and he punches more accurately. So it was a wild performance from Max Holloway to beat a legend like Poirier like that. The send-off for Poirier, it was destined to be a loss, as Max Holloway was to avenge. At least he got 1 out of the 3. Still, Poirier leading the series. And when I think about Max Holloway, it's also wild that his debut was Poirier lost. He beats Poirier in Poirier's last fight. Perfect full circle of fight career. I do think Max Holloway has a handful more fights left in him. And I think we'll have some more sensational Holloway main events. Sad to see Poirier go. They gave him a little half-assed. It was a half-assed retirement montage. I don't think it was the best retirement montage. Me and my brother were talking about that. I was like, I don't think that was as good as the Carla Esparza one. I feel like they could have gave him a more sentimental and sensational one. I get it. They did the pre-fight build-up thing that was actually pretty emotional, but the actual career ender montage, I don't think it was the best thing I've ever seen. I was kind of let down. I thought that it would be cooler than that. I thought it'd be more badass to look at, you know? But it is what it is. Max Holloway's the one that won the fight at the end of the day, but he gave respect to Poirier and, let the end of the fight, the post-fight, be the Poirier celebration, which he deserves to celebrate an illustrious 40-fight career where he put together badass performance after badass performance. Even in loss, you always knew you were going to be in a war with Dustin Poirier. He reached the interim title. He challenged for the lineal title 2 times, 3 times actually. He challenged for the BMF belt 2 times. Yeah, his championship record's pretty bad, but he still does have that interim belt that he beat Max Holloway for in their rematch some years ago. And he'll always be remembered as a champion. Dustin Poirier is the people's champ. Max Holloway, the BMF, but Poirier, the people's motherfucking chance. People's champion by a long shot, the people's chance. I guess you look at Poirier and you think, yo, people got a chance. If he can make it from nothing, he is the people's chance. He lets the people know they can pull through. Clean striking performance. The hands were accurate and sharp. Dustin Poirier retires with a little bit of salt on his tongue. If he would have won, I don't know. He should have called out Ilia Topuria. For Max Holloway, I got to see this Oliveira fight. Their first fight ended with Oliveira tearing his trachea. Let's make this rematch and let's find out what it's all about. Big W for Max Holloway beating Dustin Poirier here. Demands a lot of fucking respect. Demands a ton of respect. Nearly landed 100 more significant strikes than him, too. He was sharp. He was accurate. He was powerful. He was effective. He was durable. And he was in shape to go 5 hard. And it was an evident, slower, slightly Dustin Poirier versus what I believe to be the best version of Max Holloway we've ever seen. And still Poirier dropped him. So put some respect on Poirier's legendary name. Now, I do want to glance over what the record of the picks was on the card. Was not great. Did finish with the win, though, in the main event, which I'm grateful we won the main event because let's just say the card was looking a little bit testy on the main. All right. So we'll go over the results in a moment. All right. Let me just clear this slate up here. There's too many fights on this card. How many things I got to clear up? Right. So we started off 0-1. The Caliari Judice fight. Terrible pick there, but it is what it is. Money call with the submission of Ferreira. Money call submission of Spann. So 2-1, money call with submission of Crute. 3-1, money call with Dulatov KO. 4-1, money call with Ateba Gautier KO. 5-1. L call with this one ends up being 5-2 because I thought Prado was to win. It was close, but he still lost. And then L call there, 5-3 with Brendan Allen pulling through. And then closing out the prelims, 6-3 with Vinicius Oliveira getting a nice win. Then we jump to the main card. And took an L. Big upset, Michael Johnson. Took an L. Patricio won against Dan Ige. Took a fucking shocking L that I'm still surprised about. D-Rod beats Kevin Holland. I'm weirded out by that. I'm still weirded out by that. Loss with Kopylov over Costa. Turned out to be a terrible pick. Costa looked prime as fuck. And then won with Max Holloway in the main event, pulling through against Dustin Poirier, which led us to a 50% record. 7-7. I hate that for my parlays. Also got creamed for the most part. I mean, the over parlay was really nice. The Ige and Pitbull over and the Vettori and Allen over. But like when you look outside of that, Kevin Holland sold bad. Prado sold. We even had him in a couple. Thought he got robbed, but there was a shitload of them with Kevin Holland in. Lock City parlay, Holland and Oliveira fails. The Savage D-Gen at plus 2444 fails. It is what it is, man. It was one of those fucking cards. If you were a value chaser on the main card, because if you're betting D-Rod, it's like, you just, the tape doesn't tell you D-Rod wins this fight. It tells you Kevin Holland's a lot faster, a lot sharper, a lot better, and should pull through. But D-Rod wins because MMA is crazy. And I guess that's truly what the beauty and fun of the analysis is, the unpredictability of the fucking result. Perfect call on Max Holloway, at least to cap it off, which made me feel good. But yeah, the main card 1-4, prelims 6-3, overall 7-7 on the card, which is about as ugly a record as you can get. I'm disappointed with that, man. I am. I think I could do a lot better. I'm doing a comeback next week. All right. I guess later tonight, I'll have predictions for this upcoming DeRitter versus Whitaker card. That's the get back week because now I'm fucking invigorated. I had a 5-week lock streak. Then we take an L. Nah, it's time to get back on the lock horse and fucking ride with some more savagery. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap show. Definitely let me know in the comments what you thought about the fights. What do you think about everything that went down? Obviously, Holloway should have won it. What'd you think about Paulo Costa's resurgence? How the hell do you feel about this fucking D-Rod win over Holland? Because I don't know how to feel about it. Johnson, Zellhuber, all right. Pitbull, Ige, all right. But D-Rod over Kevin is crazy. Ateba, Gautier is a force to be reckoned with. Dulatov's one to watch. It was a pretty badass card. Carli, Judice has got a great future. It was a card that lived up to, I think, expectations. Honestly, I'd say exceeded expectations because this card was getting shit on a lot. Ateba, Gautier, Islam Dulatov, and Carli, Judice all got bonuses, as well as Allen and Vettori getting fight of the night honors, which I don't really get because I thought D-Rod and Holland could have got it, or Holloway and Poirier. But, you know, Vettori and Allen was cool. I guess maybe on paper they're making a little less money than somebody like Kevin Holland, but yeah, I don't know. I still think the 50K wasn't Vettori and Allen. It was a good fight, but I don't think that was the 50K fight. I felt like it could have went towards Holland and D-Rod or towards our main event, Holloway versus Poirier, especially with how it ended. There were sensational exchanges. I thought it was a great 5-round war and seemed to be a little bit of a cult classic for sure. So overall, good card. I would say you have to rate it highly. For what it is, I mean, do we go an A-? Like, I feel like I have to. I'd rather be over. I'd say A- card. Really good. I wish we had more finishes on the main card. Wish we would have got a sensational KO. But you don't really necessarily need finishes when you have back and forth wars. The worst fight on the main card was probably Johnson and Zellhuber. That was still a good fight. There was knockdowns. Knockdowns in that fight. Knockdowns in the Pitbull Ige fight. Knockdowns in the Holland D-Rod fight. Knockdowns in Costa Kopylov. Knockdowns in Poirier Holloway. There was knockdowns in every fucking fight on the main card. It was sensational. You say the pay-per-view is bad, you know, name value. Oh, well, it's Holloway and Poirier. Oh, it's Costa and Kopylov 2025. I get it. I get it. But still, the results of the fight and the actual entertainment of the fights in the cage, which involves still notable fighters in the UFC, it was a damn good one. I love the card. So was happy to enjoy UFC 318, and I hope you enjoyed watching it with me. I'll have the predictions for the DeRitter and Whitaker card coming out later today. So keep your eyes locked in on the channel. I'll be live on Monday, bringing the lunchtime live thunder. Thank you guys for supporting and tuning in all week long. W to the communities. W in the comments. You got nothing to say. Love you all. Holloway's still the BMF champ, and I think Oliveira for the BMF belt might be what's next. They say it's a gimmick title, but a badass fight like this, it's got to add some type of weight to the damn belt. Something fun about it. It adds another champion to the weight class, and it's already a stacked lightweight division. That just helps them sell more pay-per-views if worst case scenario comes to worst case scenarios, because for whatever reason, a belt on a shoulder or waist just ups the buy rate, it seems. Even though I think we're getting away from the pay-per-view model later in 2025, but that'll be discussed during the live streams and, you know, in a separate video. Thanks for watching the UFC 318 Fight Week content, guys. It's about to be 5 in the morning. I want to sleep. Love you all. I'll see you in the next one, and peace out.